Mirek in Toronto. We'll give that a shot.
Oh, Canada.
Hi, Mirek. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're going.
All right, perfect. So, actually, I called into the show maybe a few months ago, and I talked about how I was raised Catholic, and then I kind of started to doubt the religion. Like, there's certain aspects of it that we know don't make sense in today's world, and everything with science, knowledge, and things like that. And so as I started to doubt it, I got videos on YouTube that I found of near-death experiences of people basically who didn't believe, and then they end up having like this near-death experience where they claim that they went to some other realm and it felt completely real and everything like that. And I know that like the most common explanation for that would be lack of oxygen in the brain. But recently there's been studies where people have tested like near-death experiencers and found that the oxygen levels, it doesn't necessarily depend on oxygen. Like their oxygen levels could be completely normal when they have them.
Then how are they dying?
I mean, I guess it depends on the situation. Because there's like different ones. There's like cardiac arrest patients, and then there's people
right, but that would result in a lack of oxygen to your brain. That's cardiac arrest. Your heart quits pumping, and so oxygen is not reaching your brain.
Yeah.
So how would you be dying, right? How would you be experiencing a death, and yet your brain is perfectly fine and everything's fine, and it's not impacting the oxygen level to your brain?
Yeah, I don't know, just because I've read a couple like these pro near-death experience researchers.
Have you read? Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to talk to him a little bit?
And it's just, it doesn't sound like there was anything really taught that. You said there were studies that were done on near-death experience. I'm not sure how well versed you are in what was done in the study or the parameters in that study, but from what you described, I'm not sure if it's.
I mean, what you're basically describing is that some people claimed to have experienced. I mean, I'm assuming that they didn't disappear off the table, right? I mean, nobody's disappearing from an ER. Mm-hmm. So we know they're not going anywhere. Yeah. And so my question is, do you ever dream?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that you're going somewhere when you dream you're somewhere else, or you're somebody else, or you're someplace else?
I don't know.
You don't know, or you don't, no?
No, I said I don't.
You don't believe that. Okay. And so the other thing is, I've definitely heard people who dabble in drugs explain how they go to other realms and things like that. Do you think that that's what's happening when they're taking drugs?
No, I don't. I think
okay, so no, you don't.
I think even myself, most likely, that it's just a faulty brain. I just have a hard time explaining it because it seems like there's all these explanations that make sense to me, and then people publish all these articles that kind of try to debunk it, and then I'm not 100% sure which position to take.
Have you ever heard something that wasn't there or seen something that wasn't there? You ever had the experience of thinking you heard somebody call you and you go in the other room and they're not even in the house, they've gone somewhere? And you're just like, oh, just hearing things.
Yeah.
Okay, I have too.
Yeah.
It's just, people sometimes refer to it in colloquial terms as like a brain fart, right? You have like, so your brain just did something wacky. You thought you heard something. You think you hear an animal. You think you hear a kid. There's nothing there. And so you just say, oh, I just thought that. And so I guess what I'm describing is that there's all these situations that you fully accept as, I didn't really go anywhere, when there are people saying that they took these drugs, they went somewhere, and you're like, yeah, I don't believe that. And then people go to bed at night and they have these dreams. And there are some cultures where they do accept that a dream is you traveling, astrally traveling. Right. And it's like, but you're saying, yeah, I don't think that. And then when you experience something that's just like a quick psychotic episode that most people would experience at some point in their lives, maybe multiple times, hearing a thing or seeing a thing, and it's like, oh, I thought I saw that, but that's not what it was. You're basically like, yeah, I don't trust myself when I have that experience. I think I just, thought I saw it, thought I heard it. And so then there's this other experience, and suddenly you accept it. And I guess I'm curious as to why.
Yeah, I think it's mainly due to fear, because I saw quite a few. And I was thinking, because I know that they do generally differ culturally, but I saw a few experiences where like people had like hellish experiences, and just the hell they described similar, like seeing demons and getting attacked, and then they call out, for example, to God or Jesus, and then they get rescued, and it's just very similar imagery, and that's kind of
well, I guess the problem though is that nobody can document this story, right? It's like this is a story that the person is telling, and it would be very much like if I woke up and said, "Wow, I dreamed last night that I was a guy living in, in Germany." And it was the 1800s, and I was running around, and I drove a horse and buggy, and it was really weird, and I mean, I can have that experience and tell somebody about it, and adding that I think it really happened doesn't lend it any more validity.
So you think even if, like, for example, if there's at least like 20 or 30 experiences where the hellish experience was the same, you still wouldn't accept it?
Well, I think the problem that I have is that we all have this experience every night, and that we understand that these are dreams. Now, there are some people who think that those dreams are indicative of something more. But I mean, I don't think that. And I ask you and you don't think that. And so it's kind of interesting to me where people draw these lines. And I don't know if this helps or not, but I had a conversation one time with someone who was laughing at the idea of ghosts and hauntings, and yet they believe in demon interactions, right? So they believe that all kinds of things, just like a ghost, can happen to you, but ghosts are silly. It's demons. And in my mind, I'm kind of like, how do you dismiss the ghost, but you accept the demon? And in this instance, there's all these things that you reject that other people accept as astral projection. And then when it comes to someone dying and having an experience that's extremely similar, you say, but I believe this, I find this convincing. But the problem is they're not bringing anything back to be more convincing than someone, for example, who has a dream.
Right, it's on the same playing field. And also, like, the dreams, as far as having dreams of, like, hellfire and demons, things like that. So, like, the dreams, because I've had those dreams, and a lot of them were informed by my upbringing, the way that I was raised. Like, in one of the churches that I grew up in, there was a literal picture of a lake of fire on the wall that was, like, 7 feet tall. And that informed a lot of, but the movies that I see, a lot of what I experience, sci-fi, whatever, that gets incorporated in the dream. But just because, say, I have an experience while I am near death, that my brain is oxygen deprived, that doesn't, like Tracie, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has any greater significance than the dreams that I had throughout my entire life. So the position, I remember you said, what position should you take early in the call, but it sounds like, just the position to probably take is just you don't know.
Now, what would be really,
that would be an honest take.
What would be really interesting is if every time these people had these experiences, they came back with like a really interesting piece of information, like, oh, there's this particular airline has jet number whatever, and engine number 4 is about to malfunction, and 200 people will die, and we look at it and sure enough, there's a problem with that engine, and we fix it, and it's amazing. I mean, if they were coming back with information, I still wouldn't know what was going on.
Sure.
But at least I would be like, this is really something strange, right?
And we should invest a lot more to research it. If that's the case, then that would be.
But coming back with an odd story when you're unconscious happens to me every night.
Yeah, and it's like there are like these where people claim that they saw things that they wouldn't have known, but those are all anecdotes, like these out-of-body experiences, and I don't exactly know how valid those things are, because many of the researchers will just have like a page where anyone can submit experience. So I think that you can take that with too high much validity either. Just it's like you said, it's all subjective, and that makes sense. But I have like one last question, which would be, let's say, for example, that it really was true that right now with science we can't explain it at all. Like, let's say that it was like
Hello?
Oh,
obviously, it's not true, but let's just say hypothetically that every single scientific explanation didn't work. Would you say then that it doesn't? Would you say that prove then, anyways, that they're real?
No. I think what it would prove is that we don't know.
We don't know. We didn't have the information.
We don't have an explanation. That would be what that means. The idea that there's no explanation we can validate means there's no explanation.
Right, because some people take that even with say, the creation of the universe, say, like the Big Bang, and say like, oh, science has been unable thus far to explain how this event occurred, but that doesn't necessarily mean that any other explanation is any more valid than it was at the start of that. That just means that we don't know currently what that explanation is, and we need to research and figure it out and come to a conclusion that way. But the time for believing in something is subsequent to being it subsequent to it being demonstrated that it's true and valid, not beforehand or speculating beforehand.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for your call,
Yeah,
Mirek.
it makes a lot of sense. That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Glad you could call.
Enjoy that cold weather.
Yeah, we got a little bit better temperatures the last couple of days. I can't complain.